My dear sisters in Jesus Christ, let me begin my sharing with a short story which goes in this way. There was a woman in a village who had a very good garden consisting of both flowers and fruit trees. The entire village admired it, but the people did not understand how it was developed. It was developed with the help of a kind stranger many years ago. All of a sudden, the village was caught up with a terrible drought. Therefore, people did not have anything to eat. Ultimately, they went to her and asked for fruits to be taken from the garden. She was very generous in giving the fruits from her garden. And there was only one fruit left over in the garden. Finally, a boy came and asked her that one fruit. She did not hesitate to give that fruit to him. After receiving the fruit, the boy asked her an important question. How is it possible for you to give away all the fruits that you have heard in the garden? She said, this garden was developed with the help of someone who did not expect anything in return. I just pass on that gift to you. He took the fruit, ate it, but he collected the seeds from the fruit and planted in his garden. In that way, he also developed a very beautiful garden. Again, the village was struck by terrible drought. People ultimately came to him asking for the fruits. Like the woman, the boy also gave away all the fruits that were there in that garden. After receiving them, the people asked him the same question which he raised to the woman. How is it possible for you to give away all the fruits without reserving anything for you? He said, I received from a grateful heart. I give that gift to you so that in the future you will also transmit that gift to somebody else. My dear sisters, in this story we are able to find two important elements. Both the woman and the boy was generous enough in acknowledging that their gardens were developed with the help of somebody else. Secondly, they also transmitted that gratitude to others. About 30 years back, I started my teaching ministry. I taught theology in a major seminary. I was given 30 rupees per hour as remuneration. There were also some visiting professors who were not very happy about this amount of remuneration. Therefore, they went to the rector of the seminary and appealed for an increase in the remuneration. After listening to their argument, the rector simply said, freely received, freely to be imparted. What does it mean by this expression, freely received, freely to be imparted? We need to understand it with the background. In those days, many fathers who went to study abroad or to do specialization in theology, they were doing it with the help of some generous benefactors. That is the reason why he told them, you freely received, impart that knowledge freely to our students. The implication of this story and the life experience goes along with the theme that is given to us today for our reflection. Gratitude that radiates, living the gospel in joyful witness, nurturing the spirit of Saint Anne. When I read this theme, an important question came to my mind. The question was, what actually motivates a person to be grateful to others? In this regard, I would like to bring to your notice the idea of St. Augustine, a famous theologian and a philosopher, the author of important works like Confessions, The City of God. According to him, he said, there is only one thing in our lives that we can claim as our own, that is sinfulness. All other good, including the virtues, the merits, are coming to us from God as God's gifts. Therefore, he made it very clear to us that if a person possesses something good, it is because God, out of generosity, has bestowed it on those persons. Therefore, they can in no way claim as if they have achieved it with the help of their own ability, capacity, or power. This insight of St. Augustine enables us to acknowledge whatever good that we possess, everything comes either from God or from others. This acknowledgement should impel us so that we are able to really express our heartfelt thanks and gratitude to God and to others. I would like to make you to understand this point little more clearly and concretely. As human beings, when we live in this world, we are not independent beings. We have to depend upon others for several things. Take for an example, as soon as you get up from the bed early in the morning, you go to the switchboard in order to switch on the light. And there is somebody who is responsible in transmitting the electricity or power so that whenever you switch on your light, it burns. Once the light is there, we look for water. In the same way, there is somebody who is responsible in pumping out the water from the borewell or well and stores it in a tank so that we are able to use the water whenever we are in need of it. As consecrated people, usually we are busy with the prayer, meditation, and the Eucharistic celebration in the morning, after which we directly come to the refectory. There the food is ready. It is because there is somebody to prepare it. When we want to travel from one place to another place, we depend upon others. So like this, we can enumerate innumerable examples to show the reality that we are all dependent beings for several things to do. When we receive certain gifts from others, there comes the obligation to be grateful to them. So, gratitude is a must from all of us. Biblically speaking, gratitude is to be understood not merely as a feeling, but a conscious, ongoing practice of acknowledging God's grace, provision, and goodness. I just want to make you to understand gratitude is a conscious act. It is not expressed through routine action. For an example, as Christians, as religious people, we know at the center of the church or in the chapel, when we have that path and if we happen to pass through that way, we bow our head as a sign of respect to the Blessed Sacrament which is kept on the altar. A Christian who went to the theatre to watch a movie, there he happened to cross the path at the center of the theatre. Automatically, he bowed his head. This example makes us to understand there are some things that we do out of routine or as ritual, but gratitude is an act which is to be done consciously and willingly. Through the Psalms, David expressed his heartfelt thanks to God. Psalm number 136 contains litany of thanks. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his love endures ever. If we analyze the content of the Gospels, there also we come across certain occasions during which Jesus himself expressed his gratitude to God the Father. Going a step further, Paul invited frequently and repeatedly the believers to be thankful to God in all circumstances. Jesus also expressed his gratitude before the multiplication of loaves and at the supper, Last Supper. Theologically analyzing the concept of gratitude, we are expected or invited to understand it not merely as a moral value or emotional response, but deeply a spiritual and relational realism, which means to say, gratitude means our response to God's grace. Pope Francis also underlined this aspect, and he goes one step further and tells, a grateful person recognizes the presence of God. Coming to the realities of our life, we can say that the people of the world can be classified under three categories. The first one is, there are some people who do not find the need to be grateful to others in spite of several things that they have received either from God or from others. It is because they think whatever they have or whatever they possess, everything is ordinary. Only extraordinary things need an attitude or expression of gratitude to be expressed. Therefore, they take all these things taken for granted. They also argue that as God, as parents, as brothers and sisters, as relatives, they have got the great obligation of giving us something, which they give as an obligation. For that, we don't need to express our gratitude. This is the feeling of the first group. To cite an example in this regard from the Bible, I can bring to your notice 9 lepers out of 10 who assumed to receive healing from Jesus did not feel the need to come to Jesus in order to express their gratitude to him. In short, we can say an ungrateful person reveals his self-centeredness and the attitude that I deserve more than what I have. The second group, people who are very much aware of the need to be grateful to others, because going along with the thinking of St. Augustine, they feel whatever good they have or they possess, everything comes from God or from others. So they feel the need to be grateful to others. To cite an example from the Bible, we can say Naaman, one of the 10 lepers who was healed by Jesus, came to Jesus in order to reveal or to express his gratitude to Jesus. A grateful person reveals the humility of spirit and sensitivity to love expressed by others. Therefore, such person regards others' acts of kindness and the experience of God's grace, which are seen as overflowing grace, to be treasured, guarded by gratitude. Third group of people. These people express their gratitude to God in all circumstances. When they are happy, when they are joyful, even when they are not happy, when they are not joyful, they feel the need to express their gratitude to God. Especially when they are in the moments of difficulties, disappointments, frustrations, when their expectations are not met, when they have the feeling of anger, when they have the feeling of disappointment, in all situations, they come forward in order to express their gratitude to God and to others. In this regard only, St. Paul tells we need to be grateful to God always, in all circumstances. When we live in this way, we can say, living the gospel in joyful witness. To live the gospel in joyful witness means, first of all, we need to do certain things in a more concrete and substantial way. Namely, embracing every moment with thanksgiving. Even in those moments of trials, we are expected to give our thanks to others. Secondly, showing kindness not out of obligation, but from an overflow of grace. Speaking truth with love and humility, but definitely not with pride. Serving not to earn favor, but because we have already received it in abundance. Gratitude that radiates is something contagious. It inspires others, it softens hearts, it points people to Jesus, not through arguments, but through a life that whispers, God is good. In this regard, it is fitting to remember the words of St. Paul, which he mentions in the letter to the Philippians. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. Coming to the second part of our theme, sustaining or nurturing the spirit of St. Anne. Gratitude in the life of St. Anne, the mother of the Virgin Mary and the grandmother of Jesus, is a meaningful theme. Though the canonical scriptures provide limited direct information about her, most of what we know about St. Anne comes from apocryphal text, especially the Proto-Evangelium of James, as well as Christian tradition and devotion. Here, how the theme of gratitude can be understood and explored in her life is the question that we need to ask. In this regard, it is good to remember the following things. First of all, St. Anne and her husband, St. Joachim, were childless for many years, which in their time was seen as a social and spiritual burden. Rather than turning to bitterness and responded with prayerful devotion, petitioning God for a child. Her gratitude was expressed in trust even before her prayer was answered. This reflects a form of preempting gratitude. That means to say, trusting God's plan with a thankful heart, even in suffering. Secondly, according to tradition, Anne conceived Mary after an angel appeared and announced the blessing. Her response was one of joy and thanksgiving, recognizing the profound gift from God. She received her daughter not just as a personal blessing, but as part of God's greater plan for salvation. Her gratitude was not self-centered, but deeply spiritual, acknowledging God's work in history. Thirdly, at a young age, Mary was presented at the temple, a significant gesture by Anne and Joachim. Offering their child to God's service was an act of generous gratitude, giving back to God what they had received. It shows that Anne saw Mary not as her possession, but as a gift to be shared with the world and dedicated to God's will. Fourthly, St. Anne's gratitude is echoed in Mary's own Magnificat, where Mary praises God for his mercy and mighty deeds. It's likely that Anne helped form Mary's faith, meaning Anne's spirit of gratitude shaped Mary, who in turn bore Christ. Her life is a testimony to how a grateful heart can influence generations. Lastly, many Christian traditions venerate Saint Anne as a pattern of mothers, grandmothers, and women in labor. Pilgrims often express their gratitude for her intercession in fertility, family, and childbirth. Devotion to her is often marked by thanksgiving for answered prayers and blessings in many family life. In short, we can say gratitude in the life of St. Anne is best seen as a faithful response to suffering, a joyful reception of divine blessing, a selfless offering of gifts back to God, a formative influence on future generation of faith. In a world often focused on entitlement or despair, St. Anne offers a model of humble, steadfast gratitude rooted in deep faith and trust in God's providence.